So the T-Wolves got the first pick. Congrats to Wolves fans. Who are they going to pick? I feel like Anthony Edwards has become the consensus number one guy. The thing with all these top dudes, whoever ends up being between Edwards, LaMelo, Deni, Wiseman, whoever else, Halliburton, if you want to go that far down, none of these guys are projected to be good shooters right away. With LaMelo, it's the shooting form. Wiseman, he's just not a shooter. Deni has a horrible free throw percentage, and there's fear that that's a sign that he's never going to be able to make outside shots like that. Edwards is a little different because I feel like part of the reason his percentages in college were not good was because of his shot selection. Like if you go down some of his highlights, the dude took some bad threes, and you think if you can rein that in a bit, then he could be a little better. I think his form needs a little bit of an adjustment. Like, he's clearly not a guy who is just naturally a shooter, but I feel like he can kind of make it work. But even so, it's not a guarantee. So what I'm getting at is if you think there's just a seamless fit that you can just put on the Wolves and it instantly works next to D'Lo and Towns, I don't think I agree with you. Unless somebody ends up kind of taking a big jump with their shooting. That being said, there's still reason to be excited for a lot of these guys, I feel like. With Edwards, the obvious thing is he can score. He can be a bulldozer going to the rim. He can play in the fast break really effectively. He can finish. And he can be that third option next to D'Lo and Towns. And you'd think if Edwards can develop the ball handling and the playmaking skills, and hopefully some sign of a pull-up jumper, then D'Lo could have success playing off of the Edwards and Towns pick and roll, pick and pop, that sort of thing. And I think you can throw Malik Beasley into this thing as well. I mean, I guess, is there a little bit more of a fear that if you go with Edwards, then Beasley is maybe a little more expendable just if you want more of a 3-and-D guy at that spot? I guess so, but there's also a chance that Edwards could be an awesome defensive player. I mean, he's 6'5", 225 pounds. He's got a 6'9" wingspan. He's certainly got the physical stuff to be a defensive player, and he has shown some signs. Now, he's not naturally a defender, so his fundamentals are a little off, and his team defense needs work, and you could argue that in Minnesota that won't happen. I mean, I don't know if Karl Anthony Towns just isn't built to play defense or if he just doesn't care about it enough, but I do fear that Edwards could perhaps fall into the bad habits of his teammates defensively. Whereas if he ended up on a different team that really emphasized defense, then he could become that awesome two-way guy. I'm starting to see why there's a lot of disagreement with this draft, because as I'm talking about Edwards, I'm like, how the hell is this guy the consensus number one pick, you know what I mean? But this is the draft that we're dealing with. I mean, if I compare everything I just said to LaMelo Ball, I still am kind of like, well, maybe Edwards is the right pick, because with LaMelo, certainly a better playmaker, better ball handler, but I don't know if LaMelo would be willing to play off of the ball like that. I don't know if that would maximize his talent. I don't know if he would enjoy doing that. I don't know if he would enjoy watching Towns just post up like 9 times a game or whatever. He would certainly enjoy the pick and rolls with Towns, but just how often would that really happen? I don't think LaMelo would be able to just do everything, which is what I think he really wants to do. But that being said, if you think he's the best player, then you're still going to pick him, and if he'd be willing to buy into not having the ball every possession, and sometimes it's D'Lo, sometimes it's Towns, sometimes it's LaMelo, then I think he could have success. I mean, he's probably got to adjust the form on the jump shot a bit. That's fair. But his passing skills are great. His ability to break down guys off the dribble could be really, really good. And there is a world in which if those three can coexist, the offense could be really, really tough to deal with. Especially when you think about LaMelo's rebounding skills, where he could grab the board and then Towns could get on the fast break. I mean, that could be tough. If you got D'Lo, Towns, and Malik Beasley, and we'll just throw a Kogi in there, on the break and LaMelo's surveying him and everything like that. There's a world in which that works. But similar to Edwards, the defense could be a fear as well. More so than Edwards, because LaMelo just hasn't really shown to care too much about defense like that, or just knowing what he's doing out there. And I know some would say, yeah, well, Lonzo was the same way. So what? I mean, LaMelo's a different person. Like, they don't have the same brain. Sure, they had the same parents, but that's where it stops. But still, the offensive upside with LaMelo, Towns, and D'Lo is certainly there. So now let's get to Wiseman. I think the fit next to him and Towns, you can go both ways. The way that it could be not good is because Wiseman wants to be around the basket. And yeah, sure, Towns, he shoots a lot of threes, but he also posts up and he rolls to the rim and he goes for offensive rebounds. And ideally, you would not want a guy mucking up the spacing for Towns at the basket, right? Well, Wiseman would probably do that. I mean, is there a world in which Wiseman could develop as a shooter and a ball handler and stuff? I mean, yeah, like, that is kind of there. But would that be a thing from day one? I don't know. And there's also not a guarantee that he does that. I mean, I don't know. You're going to draft a big guy who likes to finish around the rim and tell him to develop parts of his game that he's just kind of blah at right now, and then he'll be an ideal fit for you? Like, that might just be asking too much. But at the same time, if you like him more than everybody else here, then maybe you do it. Now, the way that this can go well is if he does make sense as a shooter pretty early on, and if he can be the defensive big that you need, because maybe Towns just is never going to be that. Now, I feel like the hope for Wiseman being great defensively is not a certainty right now. I feel like Okongwu is a much better defender than Wiseman at this moment. And my fear with the Wolves drafting Wiseman would be, you pick him, you get all excited, you know, Towns, Wiseman, we're going to make this two big man thing work. First game of the season, neither one of them can defend a pick and roll. And then you're just like, oh crap, what did we do? But hey, you know what? Maybe I'm just being a little too hard on it. There's a world in which Wiseman is a big who can post up, shoot from outside, roll to the rim, do something off the dribble, and be a versatile defender who can switch and protect the basket. And if that's the case, maybe he'd be perfect next to Towns. But I don't know, man. And I guess the last one to think about would probably be Deni, who, I mean, this is similar enough to kind of what I said about LaMelo. Good size, good playmaking. Questions about his shooting and his defense. Mainly on the ball. I would say Deni is a better team defender than LaMelo is right now. The thing that I'm picking up from Deni, just reading a bunch of scouting stuff from him, is he's maybe a little safer of a pick than Edwards or LaMelo. He is a little more willing to just fit into a team and just keep the ball moving and make simple plays and not be as concerned about scoring and that type of thing, which can be good, but if you're a team that's picking here in the lottery, should you be going for the safe guy or should you be swinging for the fences a little bit more? If I have to make my prediction, I think the Wolves are going to take Anthony Edwards. It seems like he's become the kind of consensus number one guy, and usually that guy ends up just going number one. Not saying it's a perfect fit, but this is what we're working with, so yeah.